Hello, am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Wait. Yeah. Is it clear?
Clear.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, our government come with the argument with monopolization, but we have three responses to what the government gives. Number one, they said about if this conglomeration will making the overworker in that company. But ladies and gentlemen, we have UU ketenaga kerjaan, so we can solve that problem. And then second, wherever the company, even if that food company or company pengiriman or something like that, it's still there will be that company want to gain the worker or not. And second, they talk about if the small company will not compete to that conglomeration media because they believe that that a small company can do it. But ladies and gentlemen, we know that how to a company become biggest and got so many profit from their media, it because of their innovation. So we believe that even if a small company can still compete with that company because under their own innovation. For example, you know Netflix, how Netflix start from a small company, and then because they got so more exposure from the citizen, and they give the unique show to us also. So they can compete with the big company like Disney, and then Netflix becomes so biggest company in our world. And the third, we want to say that like what the government said about how that media will do the monopolization. We have the rule, we have the preventive case, like in US we have the antitrust law, so it will make the big company will not do the monopolization, and then we can give them the sanction. And ladies and gentlemen, also the government come with the argument that the company will control all the narrative in the citizen. But ladies and gentlemen, what the citizen want and what the citizen to watch is back to audience itself. If a citizen want to watch the education, or they can just choose the Trans TV or Trans Tujuh, and then if they want to watch the news, they come to join the Metro TV. So, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that, and we will give another responses to that in our argument later. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we want in our side of the house, we don't regret this media conglomeration. If media able to and want to develop their own company, it will okay to them as long as they follow the rule that the government give to them. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we know that we understand that media will not be ideal, will never be ideal, but at the end of the day, it's still necessary to us as the government, as the state, and also benefit to what the people want. And so, ladies and gentlemen, counter argument. In here's motion, we have two arguments. That first, we will explain to you how the media conglomeration so it's still necessary for us. And then second, how that company will still give the benefit to our state at the end of the day. Come to our first argument. It's about how it will this media conglomeration is still necessary, and we don't want to regret it. First reason, when media do the conglomeration and they have so big scale, it means that they will give the innovation of the show to us. Because ladies and gentlemen, in the current status quo right now, we know that CT Corp and EMTEK, they have this stable budget, or like how the characteristic of this big media, they have so much budget. So because that much budget, they can hire the best worker. They can use the best technology. They can improve their own technology, their own like CGI and something like that. They use CGI, so it will also impact to our country itself. It also improve how the technology used in our country. And second, they also have the ability to research, because they have so big a scale. They can go to Japan, for example, to just research for what the show that they want to show to us. And when they like Disney want to make a film, they do research to Frozen, a movie, and something like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, it will boost the innovation of the series that they give to us. So, if more and because we know that a company want a profit, a company will do anything to get the market, or to get the attention, and then at the end of the day, they will give us the different show to us that for from another many aspect, like from education, from news, from or something like that. So let me compare it with the small company, that what the government want. A small company, we know that a small company have low budget, so so we cannot guarantee that how for example net TV, at the start of their show, they come with a different value, but because they don't have a big scale, they don't have they don't have more budget. Also we know that net TV just recycle and recycle their show, and then no innovation anymore from their channel. So they don't get more exposure from the citizen, because we know that when a media conglomeration, or they have Trans Studio, they have Trans TV, so they got so many exposure from the citizen. And ladies and gentlemen, like how they will give a differential program on each platform. For example, in Trans Studio, they have education, but in Trans TV, they have reality show. So it's so different. So it will not bad for us. And then second reason, how it will the media conglomeration will be objective as the company to do it. First, they have a lot of market, so we know that they have a big scale. They have a big influence. Many people watch their show, so we believe that, or the media, because they want a profit, we believe that they don't want to be criticized by all the citizens in this world. If a big company do the subjective show, they will got so heavily criticized from the citizens. So we believe that they will do the best that they can do, so so our citizen will love their media. So it will so we believe that like what the government say, or the media will be as subjective, it's not right anymore, ladies and gentlemen. And then come to our third argument, is about how it will that big company will so it's so benefit to us. First, ladies and gentlemen, it will absorb a lot of worker. We know that how the big company is so stable, and and many people, unemployment people get hired by them, and then they absorb a lot of workers. So it will help unemployment in our country, and also it will influence help our government to improve our economic. And we know that how the big company, more big a company, bigger company will pay to the bigger taxation. So we believe that it will help our economic, and it not just like kerugian for us. So we believe that by all that reason, it also can improve our country at the end of the day, like that big company. And it also give the objective show to our citizens, and then it also give the innovation to our show. So because of that, we very proud to oppose.
Thank you for the fine speech. To continue from government, DPM. You're here.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Before I start my speech, a few clarifications. If I ever get like cut off out of the Zoom, please like tell my teammates or tell my teammates directly, because I won't be able to read the chat at all while I'm doing my speech. So yeah, okay. Hmm. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, notice how opposition completely disregards the characterization that happens in like big media companies right now. They paint the picture of like big media companies of being, oh, this happy-go-lucky like startup that is always like having innovations and always having like coffee for you in the morning and providing that. They disregard every characterization of how big media companies actually like sucks the soul out of the creative people in the very first place, right? They disregard all that. And they play on their best case scenario. They never engage to their worst case scenario, and they should lose on that point alone, right? Before I'm going to move on to my clashes, I'm going to like give a few rebuttals, right? So their whole argument about like how innovation happens in like big media companies and media conglomerates, and how you're going to have like a lot of how you're going to have a lot of like better stories because of it, right? No, we say innovation does not happen in big media companies. Why? Because it's big media companies is already like going to use like the cheapest option available, right? Because exactly they're only caring about their bottom line. They're only caring about the profit. So they're not going to have like these research thingy majiggies and vacations and whatnot, right? Because they just want they want to spend the least amount of money to have to gain the most amount of profit at the end of the day, right? The innovation won't happen. Innovation will only happen in our side of the case, very exclusive to small media companies, precisely because small media companies have to compete with each other. I'm going to elaborate it later on in the show. And they talk about how innovation will lead to more audience and so on and so forth, right? Precisely because you have a lot of audience, right? This is not what we want. We don't want media companies to compel to a lot of audience, because at that point you're going to have to dilute yourself, right? You're going to have to dilute yourself to that the story is going to have to dilute yourself to these audiences, and it's going to make a worse story at the end of the day, right? Because every audience has like a different preference and so on, right? And they talk about and then a second about they talk about how there are laws for media conglomerates, like antitrust laws and etc. Like companies simply do not follow these laws in the first place, right? In the very status quo, companies do not follow this law. That's why this motion exists in the first place, right? We see in the status quo that overwork is already happening because companies only care about their bottom line in the first place, right? And they talk about how and then they talk about how about the narrative that we push, right? The narrative that people have options with small media companies, and they talk about how there's no and talk about how you can just simply switch to Metro TV from Trans TV. No, because Trans TV and Metro TV exactly have the same stance. They're quite like in Indonesia stance, like liberal with Heritanu with Surya Paloh and Chairil Tanjung having always wanting to like suck up to the government. And other than that, there is no other option, because exactly these media conglomerates dominate the whole market in the first place, right? There's no similar stances. There are no options for the audience in the first place. Even if there's like multiple media conglomerates competing with each other, there is they are not brave enough to, like, because they have a wide audience, they're not going to be brave enough to do all of this to have a very different stance in the first place, right? They just want to suck up to everyone. There is no other option in their side of the house. So my first extension is going to be about budget and how it's going to relate to stories and entertainment. They talk about how, okay, entertainment is going to be better because of a bigger budget, and bigger budget entails whatnot, right, in their side of the case. No, because first of all, with the bigger budget, it comes from where it comes from, like the parent company and they're very much investors, right? Okay, you get a lot of money per se. You're a very creative person and you get a lot of money, but you will not be able to use that creativeness because technically in media conglomerates, it's very conditional, right? your budgeting is very conditional in the sense that you have to follow the agendas and the will of the parent company in the first place. So at the end of the day, there are many projects by child companies that could never be succeed or cancel halfway because it is deemed unfit by the parent company. They kill creatives in their side of the house, right? So how are you how are you going to use all those skilled workers that you have in the first place? You're just going to like bring them down, right? But then even if like you have a big budget and you can use it, so what does a big budget entail, right? Second response, a bigger budget entails like only like bigger sets, flashier props, and famous actors. It has nothing to do with the story in the first place, right? Instead, it's going to be worse at the big budget because at that point you're diluting your stories enough to appeal the masses, exactly because the investors just want profit, because investors just want your money in the first place, right? Because you have the big powerful stakeholders in your production, you will not be able to make a fully fleshed out story. So but what in the sense that makes a good story, right? A good story comes from good personal experiences and nothing to stop that good personal experiences and storytelling from happening, right? And it's going to be diluted in opposition. But in the third response to this is that they get this creative not from unemployed workers, right? They get these creatives from the mergers in the first place, and this is going to directly clash with their argument about how it's going to help unemployment, because exactly big media companies just merge and merge and merge and merge with each other, and when the merge happens, it's not going to like get more creatives that's going to go into the company and whatnot. What's going to happen is that big media companies are going to cut them fucking off, right? They're going to cut them off because at the end of the day, it's their bottom line that matters, right? It's their bottom line, it's the profit. And if the studio can survive without these extra creators that actually benefit that actually help making it a very fleshed out story, then the media companies just go out without them, right? At the end of the day, the big media companies will do at the bare minimum of what they can appease to the audience, right? They're just going to have the audience go into the theater without actually enjoying the show in the first place, right? That's what the big media company has in the first place. But still, it's going to be better in our side because investments still happen in small media companies. Exactly why? Because small media companies exist in small niche communities in the first place that are invested in the genre, right? People will come to these movies and buy the tickets, and there's probably going to be an angel investor that is going to be very passionate about the story that will fund the movies in the first place. And he's not funding because he wants to profit. He's funding because he wants to make a good story in the first place, and investment is better on our side of the case. In conclusion, what's happened in conclusion, the media company in our side of the case is a small one, will always have a community to fall back on, while actually still like clashing with other small media companies in the first place, right? So moving on to my second substantive about like our world versus the status quo. What happened in our world? Companies will exist better because what happens in our side of the house is that small companies are actively trying to get out of their own niche and trying to like get known and like compete with other small media companies in the very first place, right? Competition happens better on our side of the house because of that, because they can always have something to fall back on, but they still want to compete with each other. But let's say that competition also happens in their side of the house, it's going to be much more worse, because at that point, big media companies, big media conglomerates are not going to care about grabbing in more audiences in the first place. They're going to care about, okay, at least I make a profit in this quarter of the season, right? But also, secondly, representation will also happen better on our side, because exactly these small media companies have been always historically in niche communities. At the end of the day, niche communities means that there is niche writers and that can portray the story exactly how the niche community feels it, right? So very proud to oppose.
Okay, thank you for the speech. To continue from opposition, DLL, you here.
Hello, am I audible?
That's audible.
Okay. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Two metrics in this debate. Number 1, for opposition, I already told you about how it will benefit the shows. Second, about the company in itself, we never like proposition never really engaged to this. I'm going to do a lot of responses. Number 1, they say a lot of media companies only care about profit, so they need to be able to only show to the people the very, so there is no boost innovation happen in outside the house. It's untrue. Why? Because if the media companies tell this war story, people were not going to watch that anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly because they care about the profit, it means that they need to differentiate their program. It means that they need to makes a trademark about the program. For example, in SCTV, for example, when it familiar with Sinetron and another like Trans 7, for example, education like Unyel or maybe Sibola, it shows to you how at the end of the day, company really think about it, really think about how this kind of story, this kind of program can reach to the people and can make the profit come back to them. So their argument is not media companies do not care about only care about profit, yes, but it's not going to boost innovation. No, it will boost innovation even more in our center house because exactly they to be able to appeal to the more scale of the audience in itself. Second, they say representation only exists in their server house. No, I'm going to engage with this. Why? Because the representation still exists and already have a lot of progress in the current status quo. What do we want to talk about? We want to talk about the Disney, right? There's a lot of Disney movie right now who cater to the minority. And Kanto, for example, who people of color becoming the main actor, right? We talk about Coco, for example, who care about the culture and the culture and also the story of the people in Mexico. What it tells you? It tells you when you have highest budget, when you have a media conglomeration and you have a lot of network to do so, it means that you can further making progress of your program. You can exactly do research of Frozen in Sweden and also do research of other story. Go to the deep meaning of this exactly because you are big. You can do so. So what this tells you, representation even more better and outside the house. Second, they say, oh yeah, the company, the biggest company in current status quo do merger and so on and so forth is not healthy competitive company. We think that yeah, it's true. But what we need to understand is not the regret of media conglomeration, but we need to more strict for the government to fix the implementation of law. Because in the current status quo, we already have the preventive mechanism to do that, right? Antitrust law, for example, and UU Ketenagakerjaan, who already like have a rules and policy to manage this. We told you in the previous speaker, this is not ideal way, but we think limiting company for developing is still not fair anyway. Why? Because a lot of biggest company right now also start for the small company, right? They need year by year. Disney even need a lot of like a lot of year in order for them to in the position right now. So we think the media conglomeration is not something that's really regretful, but like what proposition say. So and second and next, they also talk about how people cannot have any other option because a lot of the same uniformity of media company tell, right? We think that even in your side of the house is not going to be that different because under our side, a lot of platforms still exist, right? If you do not really care about, like, do not really want to watch what current television, you can still watch another platform that suits into your preference. What does it tell you? It tells you the control is still from the audience in itself. You can pick and choose what the current program that you want to watch and what the current program you do not want to watch. What does it mean? It means that at the end of the day, it can boost more, like for example, innovation as well, again, and outside the house. Why? If you really want to, like, if you think that this media conglomeration do not preference into your personal preference, you try to search about the other things then. For example, you search for Fox News or The Guardian. Do not watch Metro TV then, right? So the thing is that the control is still on you, and you are. There is no demand. There is no forcing for the company to watch the story. But exactly because of that, media company need to be able to innovate as much as possible in order to appeal to the customer to tell us, we are neutral, for example, or we are already show like we have a lot of progressive story, or maybe we have a lot of innovation story that we can show to you, so you will interested to watch our story. But third, they also talk about the artists, right? How at the end of the day, the mainstream media only care about the artists with the highest pay and did not care about the quality. We don't think it is true. Why? Because a lot of time, expensive artists also line in line with the quality that she have.
For example, and we talk about Emma Watson, right? She's really expensive artist, but at the same time, the quality of acting that she gives into the story are also similar. What it shows you? It shows you the quality, or also like expensive artists, it doesn't mean will undermine the quality of story. It's also maybe exposed more to the expensive itself. So we also don't think like hiring the expensive artist is not is going to be that harmful, right? Because even in their side, we can still going to hire artists anyway. So therefore, it's not really that exclusive, but it's more better in outside the house. Exactly, it can boost a lot of people and boost the innovation. But second, about the even it can benefit in outside the house. Notice our previous speaker already established what the characterization of company this company have, right? They already budget, network, and exposure toward the audience. What this tells you? It tells you it is very beneficial toward the small artists to appeal in that television, to appeal into the drama, for example, and they can get virality because a lot of media companies right now, like RCTI and also Trans and also SCTV already started to begin with. What it tells you? It tells you in outside the house, it's more exposure even to help the small artists in the house, right? So what do I tell you in this debate? Number one, the innovation of series. We think that big company you need to understand is that a lot of them have a budget and to boost innovation as much as possible. But second, we think that we think that it's very important to establish is that when media company, they are already media conglomeration to begin with, they are trying as much as possible to so do not going to have a biased perspective. Why? Because they know they have a lot of market. For example, variety of perspective, right? For example, there is a lot of people who liberal, for example, or conservative who watch their show. What it tells you? It tells you the political polarization and a lot of people who only like only one side perspective is not going to happen when we have media conglomerate session. So they need to be able to appeal with a neutral information as much as possible. When they have spotlight, society can heavily criticize them. So it is necessary. Why? Because as a media conglomeration, they inform as much as neutral. So so if you think it doesn't suit with your preference, you can search for another in the news site, for example, that support your preference. So the thing is that in media conglomeration is more beneficial because they are trying to inform with the objective manner as possible. There is no subjective activity because they know when they do that, it will going to be decrease the profit exactly because they care about profit. They do not want to taking any harm action that can benefit them. So as told you, we already responded to what a lot of arguments that come from proposition. We already established as well why media conglomeration, even if it's not ideal, but it's still necessary for us to oppose.
Thank you for the fine speech. To continue from government with here.
Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
All right. Let me start my timer. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Opposition keeps wanting to tell you that media conglomerates has the money to do research, to do good representation. But in the status quo, they won't. They won't do that. We already see it. And I will explain to you later on the nuances on even if they're liberal, why they still would it still be harmful, on why even if there are differentiations in the ideologies of these MCs, it would still be harmful. So before we even move on to that, I have several things that does not necessarily fit into my clashes, but I would still like to bring up. They mentioned that control at the end of the day is still within the audience because you can change channels and programs. We would like to ask you, what is the option as an audience? Even if you're an audience, you can change channels. At the end of the day, you can only watch what is existing on the status quo. And we are throughout our case, we have been challenging you that with MC, they kill the amount of variety, the amount of nuances that media can even offer to you. So even at the end of the day, we can simply still change channels. The things that we can watch, the options that we have is still very much limited at the end of the day. And they mentioned that media starts from small companies, so it's okay. We would like to mention to you that they can be big because there was no competition back then. Netflix becomes this big because back then Disney doesn't own literally every media company out there. Can you imagine what it's like to be an individual company at this time, having little to no budget, having to fight with literal Disney who owns everything? It's insane, and it is not feasible for they to just make that kind of comparison. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about media output, because opposition seems to completely disregards the characterization that we have been bringing to you on why is it that media conglomerates will still be mild, would still want to be moderate, will still want to play it safe. Let's look at what they tell us throughout this debate. Opposition mentions that first of all, so first of all, they don't want to be criticized, right? So they will be fair. So let's discuss several things. First of all, why MC would not, I would like to mention that I have two clashes. First of all is a media output, and second of all is media workers. Moving to my first clash about media output, let's look at the several things. First of all, why was it that MC would not likely to innovate? Because even we have characterized to you that MC wants to play it safe. They have a lot of stake. Even if has conceded that they don't want to be criticized. But the manifestation in the status quo is that what actually happens differs from what the opposition tries to tell you, in which they say that, okay, these media companies, conglomerates will be very fair, very objective, lots of research, blah, blah, blah. No, that is not what will happen. They will want as many people to like their media as possible. That and is also influenced with whatever agendas that they may have. But usually, in order to cater with as many people as possible, their media would have three characteristics. First of all, palatable. They do not deviate from the norms as much as possible. Second of all, it's easy to digest. It's very surface level entertainment, and you don't have to do a lot of thinking to be able to enjoy it. And thirdly, it would be trendy. It would always follow on what is it that most people seemingly like at that point. And so while these characteristics of media aren't bad themselves, when a parent company tells all of its child company to do the same thing, it creates homogeneous culture of media production. There will be not much of counterculture happening in media, not much nuance and richness. All right, let's talk about the second things. Fine, what if they happen to innovate? What will happen is that they will only innovate in the direction that they want. Even if opposition says that MC or media conglomerate will make product differentiations towards different markets, like they mentioned Sinetron in one channel and educational program in another. Notice that even within the scope of innovation that they bring, it is still very much limited by the general social norms and the three characteristics of media under MC that I mentioned. Under this motion, you will never see in Indonesian media a man wearing a skirt to his job. You will never see a woman with a wife as a host as out and is just treating it as a general fact, right? So this is what happens. Even if there's innovations, it will still be very much limited. But all right, fine. What if they're liberal? What if we're talking in the USA, or what if suddenly media companies in Indonesia are liberal? What kind of liberalism would that be? Even within the liberal society and status quo, there are still persistent stigmas, such as gay men being effeminate in movies, transgender people in movies have to go through surgeries to be deemed as normal or as valid. So what does this tell you, ladies and gentlemen? Even if they would like to argue that media conglomerates have differing views, differing whatnot, at the end of the day, they would still want to play it safe within that kind of audience of a target demographic that they will be bringing. So what does this mean, ladies and gentlemen? At the end of the day, no matter how accurate, respectful content creator would be, that is, have been mentioned, is a lot of the times headed by powerful men, powerful white men, powerful men in the majority, whatever it is, just how good, how accurate they want to create the content, it will still be within the small scope of whatever it is they deem appropriate. And we think that is not good because, first of all, the money will go to them instead of minority talent who actually live through the struggles, and then the white content creator gets whatever it is that they want. So what we need to do actually is we need to encourage diverse talent to be the one to tell their story, to be the one who gets profits from the story they tell. And even if the opposition would like to say, oh, but that's possible under media conglomerates. No, because I have mentioned to you that they're inherently wanting to play it safe. Because imagine having so much companies under your wing. You do not want to lose money. Money is very tightly regulated and profits must be high at all times. Why? Because if you don't make lots of profit, you will lose your child companies. You can't keep up with this insane amount of revenue, ladies and gentlemen. And when that happens, you're very limited to this very narrow narrow tunnel view of what is appropriate in media. When investors see these individual companies, meanwhile, as an option who can give them better storytelling, who can actually make depictions of counterculture, they will invest. And when the option there, but when in status quo, they only see that viable options are MCs, because individual companies are being stampeded by these MCs, ladies and gentlemen. They do not see them as an option. And so at the end of the day, why is it that diverse message is important to the audience? Because media shapes your worldview. You might not experience war directly, right? But you empathize with the soldiers struggling in war in movies. You might not experience the Hong Kong protest. You might not relate to that, but you see the news of them persisting. So we think it is bad when parent company controls the media you see, precisely because the media you see will be safe content, will be palatable, will be easily enjoyable. Watching live actions of Lion King isn't going to challenge your worldview the way Lady Bird and Moonlight do when you see a black man crying for the first time in his life because he's gay. Also, understand the bias of mother company having executives who have biased views will affect these kinds of news at the end of the day. And we have also mentioned to you that media companies are so big that they can just impede the laws that already existed because they're so big, they're so powerful. And we have also mentioned to you that when mergers happen, and which happens a lot of the time in these media conglomerates, people get laid off. Hundreds of people who have jobs, who are struggling now to stay afloat. And if they would like to mention the MC creates more jobs, we would like to say no, because due to their inherent money-making nature, they would want to hire as less amount of people as possible, be as effective as possible. So really at the end of the day, MCs are just very greedy. We have proven to you why it's greedy and why they will be bringing harm to the general media in general, and why is that bad for society. We're so happy to propose.
Thank you for the fine speech. To continue from opposition with here.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Is that clear? Sorry.
Yes, clear.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Ladies and gentlemen, panels, and we can see here that government side of the house always talk about small companies can innovate more than the media, big conglomeration media, which is not true in their side of the house, because we can see that Disney, such as example, they have so much innovation. They do research because they have a lot of money. They have a lot of resource that such as they can hire much worker, the best quality of the worker. They can hire the best quality of artists, such as example. Artists doesn't limit it as expensive artists. We have so much artists that have so much talent that we just big company also can research. They have people to do that research to can hire these small artists that have talent, so much talent. And also the taxation that happened in our side of the house also beneficial for us, because if that conglomeration, the conglomeration of the media, they have so much money, they can help us in the taxation for our nation, such thing. And also the monopolization that they said before, that we have preventive law that can in our current status quo, such as antitrust law that prevent the action of the monopolization that happened. Also, in our side of the house, we bring that objectivity that happened, which is they said before that our side of the house, the executive big company will be biased because of that, which is not true, because the big company have to maintain their own image because of that, and they have so much audience, they have so much big market they have to maintain with. Because of that, they have to choose to be neutral. They have to choose to be not take a subjective perspective, because they will choose to be neutral. Because of that, they can because of that they will they will bring so much people. They have so much people to watch them, that because of that people will criticize them if they do subjective perspective if happen. And also the innovation that bring from our side of the house, such as that big company will do better because they have money to develop their own shows, such as thing. They can do such thing that my previous speaker says before that, such as Frozen. They search to Sweden, the culture that happened, which is they can do this is that conglomeration media can do because of so much resources that they have. And also the variation of the show is also happen in our house, because of if they have same pattern in the media, people will not watch them, right? Because of that, they have to do so much variation. They will develop more to increase the much audience they can get. And also they will hire more worker. They will absorb worker, such a thing, because the big company itself needs so much human resources, as a thing. And because of that, they will hire more worker. Then, and also if they have money, the big company have money, they can hire worker that will develop the worker also, because of they will do such thing program that will develop the worker that already good at their skill, then will help the small worker, that new worker, to develop more, which is will bring our side of us more beneficial. And also the big budget they have also give more facilities to them because of that. And the facilities, such as they can do CGI thing that Disney we can see right now, and also the big company like DreamWorks on such thing, and that have a lot of resource. The facilities that they have to bring more innovation to their show. And also as my previous speaker said before that, such as Netflix, they came for small company, that do innovation. They do innovation, and because of that, they can bring, because of their innovation, people interested them. Which is you said before that will limited the growth of small company, which is not true, because we can see in the current status quo, such as a Netflix, that can grow more because of they can compete with big company because of their innovation, which is this is your case is, which is not true because of that. And also the artists that we care also about, because of the small artists, the big artists, the small artists that we said before that can get more exposure if they show in the big company, the more exposure. Because of that, they will get more exposure, and they will get more money because of that. And also the white privilege that you say before that, the representative of the white privilege, and also which is not true, because we can see in the Coco, in Encanto movies that come from Disney, which is, you say that, coming from the white privilege. Because of that, we see that so much representative happen right now, because our people are already progressive, that which is the case that you bring, which is not relevant to our side, to the current status quo, because of that. And also the big company, you say that big company that can steer people to do propaganda and also the agenda, which is not true also, because people nowadays is already progressive, because they can so much discussion happen right now. And also because of that, the propaganda will not happen, because they will criticize the people will criticize if this thing happen because of that. And also, we bring so much beneficial in our side of the house that the government side of the house, they will so always choose the cheapest option, which is not true. They impossible to do cheapest option because they want to innovate. They will have to do more. They have to bring more money, and also because of that, the case not relevant for us. And also the bias thing that happened, and also the content that limited because of the norm of the nation, also not true because I mean, content that still limited by the norm of nation. It happened, yeah, it happened. But we can see the people that progressive can choose the platform such as Netflix and the Disney. They can choose to watch the progressive also, like such as LGBTQ shows that already there. We can see that big company such as Netflix bring something like that. And also play it safe is also okay because of we have so much option that we never the big company never force you to do so, never force you to watch their content, to watch the thing that you serve, because we have so much option. Because of that, we are very proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you for the fine speech. To close from opposition reply.
Halo, emang audible?
Coba lebih keras lagi.
Okay, hello.
Yeah, okay.
How about right now?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. 4 things to debate. Number 1, innovation. Number 2, monopolization of small companies. Number 3, bias of perspective. Number 4, in terms of benefit. Which one side we're going to win that? We think that under right now, we think that opposition still deserves to win this debate. Number 1, about innovation, right? They argue small company like boost more innovation. We think that it might true, but the probability of innovation can exist more further in the big company. 2 reasons why. Number 1, networking and budget, right? We think that when they claim like big company do not care about innovation at all, it's just not true. Why? Because they can profit. This boost them to do to research more about what exactly audience wants in current status quo, what exactly trend, for example, so they can bring up into their program. Therefore, we think that the innovation can enhance more progressive even in our side of the house on proposition. But second, about monopolization. So always bring about how small companies and merger and whatnot, they tell us big companies is that so evil. We told you in the very earlier speaker, what even then we acknowledge monopolization might happen, but we already preventive mechanism to be mitigated. So also responded, right? Untrue, because in the manifestation there is a lot of happen. Yeah, but the thing is that is not the regret of media conglomeration. So we need to fix the implementation of law. Means that the government need to be able to find another way to make this more strict regulation, for example. So this big company who's so evil in their side of the house can pay the having a look of the antitrust law and implement it and so on and so forth. So this is not a regression, and we already answered that as well in our side of the house. But third, about the bias of perspective, right? They tell us about a lot of people who are on the executive of media right now, biggest media, are the white privileged people. Therefore, they don't care about representation. It's untrue also, right? Because we responded to you that a lot of people right now currently become more progressive. For example, so the big media care about this and see this as an opportunity to making a market. What this tells you? It tells you representation even happening outside of the house. We bring a lot of example of this, right? For example, a lot of film right now who choose main actor as people of color. But even then, they say about the media company always want to play it safe because there is limited norms and so on. We think that it's still fine. Why? Because as an audience, we can a lot of platform out there can serve us with the preference audience that we want to. For example, yeah, maybe in the mainstream media like Indonesia, CTI and SCTV, you cannot watch BL movies, but on Netflix you can still watch that. So we don't think it is
something that's really harmful at the end of the day. Therefore, we think that it's more beneficial on our side. Why? Because the media conglomeration means that they know a lot of people and they have a lot of influence toward the people. Therefore, they need to be able to as objective as possible, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we think that it's not going to be a part of them when taking something really subjective. For example, they do not want to do sometimes like propaganda and so on, because if they do that, citizen or also society will precisely heavily criticize them. Therefore, we think that especially when we talk in the current era, a lot of people are already aware and informed about something. So when people think, oh, this is not right, they can actually criticize the media itself. So therefore, the media companies cannot it's still fine for them to play it safe, because exactly they have a lot of influence and they do not want like creating a much more problem in the society, right? So even under third things, we think we still win. But benefit, right? We think that we bring you 3 benefits. Number 1, about the audience. Why? Because a lot of boost motivation right now, a lot of competition between the media. It makes the media serve us with the highest content and with the differential content as possible. Artists, we told you about example. Third, about water, when they're overworked, it's not exclusive. So we think that we already have a lot of UUD for that. So we think the competition can still with proud to oppose.